The bar on Crosspoint 7 station was full of noise and light. Aliens from dozens of worlds filled the tables, drinking and talking. Some had scales, some had fur, and some had skin that changed colors with their moods. The air smelled like a mixture of different atmospheres, filtered and processed to keep everyone alive. In the center of it all stood Vexthor. He was hard to miss. The Kralathi hunter had 4 arms, each one ending in clawed hands that could tear through metal. His body was covered in dark blue chitinous armor that looked like it belonged on some ancient war machine. His eyes were compound, seeing in directions that would make most species dizzy. When he moved, it was with the fluid grace of something that had killed many times before. Tonight, Vexthor was showing off. Holographic projectors floated around him, displaying images of creatures that would give most people nightmares. There was a scaled beast the size of a shuttle, its jaws frozen mid-roar. Another image showed something with too many legs and eyes that glowed in the dark. Each creature was more terrifying than the last. This one, Vexthor said, pointing at a creature that looked like a cross between a tiger and a tank, came from Helion Prime, a Deathworld rated 7 on the classification scale. The gravity there would crush most of you before you even saw one of these beasts. The crowd murmured with appreciation. A few species clicked or chirped their amazement. One young Pillon, whose species was known for their timid nature, actually fainted and had to be carried away by friends. Vexthor continued with his stories. He told them about the hunt on Helion Prime, how he had tracked the beast for 6 days through volcanic terrain, how it had almost killed him twice, how he had finally cornered it in a lava tube and struck the killing blow with his ceremonial blade. The creature weighed 3 tons, he said with pride. Its hide was thick enough to stop plasma bolts. But nothing stops a Kralathi hunter. We are the apex predators of the galaxy. More applause. More drinks ordered in his honor. Vexthor basked in the attention like a plant soaking up sunlight. This was what he lived for, these moments of glory and recognition. He moved to the next image. This one showed a serpent-like creature with crystalline scales. From Mindara, a Deathworld rated 8. The atmosphere there is toxic to most oxygen breathers. This crystal serpent could sense heat signatures from 3 miles away. It was patient, intelligent even. But I was more patient. I waited in a thermal sink for 14 hours until it came within striking range. The stories went on, each one more dramatic than the last. Vexthor had hunted across the known galaxy, taking down creatures that evolution had designed to be perfect killers. He had the trophies to prove it, the scars to show for it, and the reputation that came with it. In the back corner of the bar, away from the crowd, sat Kate Morrison. She was human, which made her unusual on Crosspoint 7. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, having only made first contact 70 years ago. Most species found them unsettling in ways they could not quite explain. Kate did not look particularly dangerous. She was average height for a human, lean and weathered from years in space. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her clothes were practical, the kind worn by someone who worked with their hands. She had been nursing the same drink for the past hour, watching Vexthor's show with quiet interest. Her ship, the Long Haul, was docked at the station for repairs. A micrometeor had punched through her hull plating 3 systems back. She had 3 days to kill while the station's repair crews patched the damage and certified her ship for flight again. She had not planned to spend her evening in a bar listening to a hunter brag. But the Long Haul's quarters were being fumigated. Something about spores from a cargo she had hauled last month. So here she was, drinking something that tasted vaguely like whiskey but definitely was not, watching an alien peacock strut around. Vexthor was on his final story now. The hologram showed a massive crustacean-like creature with claws the size of escape pods. This monster came from Kragnor, a Deathworld rated 9. Only 12 species in the galaxy can survive on Kragnor's surface. The pressure, the temperature extremes, the radiation, all of it designed to kill. This creature was the apex predator there. It had no natural enemies. It feared nothing. He paused for dramatic effect. The crowd leaned in. It took me 3 weeks to track it, 2 more weeks to study its patterns. And then, in one perfect moment, I struck. The killing blow severed its neural cluster. It died not knowing what had killed it. That is the mark of a true hunter. The crowd erupted in applause. Drinks were raised. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. He was about to launch into another tale when a voice cut through the noise. Did any of them hunt you back? The bar went quiet. Every head turned toward the source of the voice. Kate had not moved from her corner. She still held her drink, still sat in that same relaxed posture, but something in her tone made the question feel important. Vexthor's compound eyes swiveled to focus on her. "What did you say?" Kate took a sip of her drink before answering. Her voice was calm, almost casual. "I asked if any of them hunted you back. You've told us about hunting all these dangerous creatures. Did any of them track you? Did any of them set traps for you? Did any of them coordinate with others to corner you?" The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Several species moved away from Kate instinctively, though they could not have said why. There was something about the way she sat, perfectly still, perfectly aware, that triggered ancient prey responses in their genetic memory. Vexthor clicked his mandibles, the Krillathi equivalent of a laugh. They were beasts. Dangerous beasts, yes, but still just animals. They acted on instinct, so they did not hunt you, Kate said. It was not a question. "I hunted them," Vexthor replied, his voice taking on an edge. "That is what hunters do. We track, we study, we kill. We are predators." Kate set down her drink and stood up. She was not tall by human standards, but in the bar full of aliens, her movement drew every eye. She walked forward slowly, and the crowd parted before her like water around a stone, not because she threatened anyone. Because somewhere deep in their instincts they recognized something walking toward them. She stopped a few feet from Vexthor, her hands loose at her sides. "You hunted creatures. I am not saying that is not impressive. Those things you killed, they could have killed you. They were dangerous. But there is a difference between hunting creatures and hunting something that hunts you back." Vexthor drew himself up to his full height, which put him nearly 2 feet taller than Kate. His forearms crossed in a gesture of dominance. "And what would a human know about hunting? Your species stumbled out of your gravity well barely a century ago. You are cargo haulers and merchants, scavengers who got lucky with tool use." A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd, but they died quickly. Kate's expression had not changed. She still looked calm, almost friendly, but her eyes were steady on Vexthor. "Earth is classified as a Deathworld 10, she said quietly, "one of the highest ratings in known space. You've hunted on worlds rated 7 through 9. That's impressive. But you have never hunted on a world like mine." Vexthor's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "Earth's rating is probably inflated. Your people exaggerated the dangers to seem more important." Kate smiled slightly. It was not a warm smile. "Tell you what, come hunt on Earth. Pick any region, any prey you want. If you succeed without any help from humans, I will personally stand in the middle of Crosspoint 7 and declare that the Krillathi are the greatest hunters in the galaxy. I will make sure every newsfeed carries the story. Your name will be legend." The bar was completely silent now. Everyone understood what was happening. This was a challenge issued in front of witnesses. Vexthor could not refuse without losing face. "And if I fail?" he asked. "Then you admit that Deathworlders from Earth are different, that we do not just hunt, we hunt back." Vexthor looked around at the crowd, at the dozens of eyes watching him. He had built his reputation on being the galaxy's greatest hunter. He could not back down from a challenge issued by a human cargo hauler. "I accept," he said. "Name the location." "Pacific Northwest region," Kate replied. "Mountainous, forested, plenty of prey. You can pick what we hunt." Vexthor thought for a moment.
He had studied Earth's fauna as part of his preparation for entering human space.
He knew the dangerous species, the big cats, the bears, the venomous snakes. He needed something impressive but manageable. A bear, he decided. One of your grizzly bears. They are large, dangerous, but a reasonable challenge. Kate's smile widened just a fraction. Just a bear, okay, they discussed terms. Vexthor would be allowed his standard hunting gear, the equipment he used on every hunt. Kate would come along to observe and document, but she would not interfere unless his life was in actual danger. The hunt would last 1 standard week. If Vexthor killed a grizzly bear in that time, he won. If he failed or needed Kate's help to survive, she won. They sealed the agreement in the traditional Krillathi way, crossing arms and gripping forearms. Vexthor's claws dug slightly into Kate's skin, drawing tiny beads of blood. She did not flinch. As the crowd slowly returned to their conversations and drinks, Vexthor moved back to his table. His companions congratulated him, assured him. The shuttle dropped them at the edge of the forest just after dawn. Vexthor stepped out onto Earth soil for the first time and immediately knew something was wrong. The air was too thick, too rich with oxygen. Each breath felt like drinking instead of breathing. His compound eyes struggled to process the sheer amount of visual information. Everywhere he looked, something was moving. Leaves, insects, birds, shadows. The forest was alive in a way that made his other hunting grounds seem empty by comparison. Kate stepped out behind him, carrying a simple pack. She wore practical hiking clothes, boots that had seen many miles, and a jacket despite the warm morning. She breathed the air like it was the most natural thing in the world. To her it was. First time on Earth? She asked, though she already knew the answer. Vexthor clicked his mandibles, trying to hide his discomfort. The gravity is heavier than I expected, and the oxygen content is high. Earth is a Deathworld 10, Kate reminded him. Everything here evolved to handle this. You will adjust or you will not. That is how it works. She led him along a narrow trail into the forest. The trees towered above them, Douglas firs and cedars that had been growing for centuries. Their trunks were wider than the shuttle that had brought them. Moss covered everything thick and green. The ground was soft with decades of fallen needles and decomposing wood. Vexthor activated his hunting gear. Sensors spread out from his suit, reading heat signatures, analyzing scents, mapping the terrain. His combat visor overlaid information across his vision. He had used this equipment on a dozen worlds. It had never failed him. Before we go further, Kate said, stopping on the trail, I need to tell you some things. Rules for surviving here. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in annoyance. I have hunted on worlds that would kill you in minutes. I do not need instructions. Kate looked at him steadily. This is not my help with the hunt. This is basic safety. If you get yourself killed before we even find a bear, the whole thing is pointless. So you will listen. Something in her tone made Vexthor pause. He gestured for her to continue. Everything here is dangerous, Kate said. The plants, the insects, the animals. See that ivy growing on the trees? Poison oak. Touch it, and your skin will blister. Those berries over there? Some are food. Some will make you sick, some will kill you. You cannot tell the difference just by looking. She pointed to a fallen log. Snakes hide in places like that. Some are harmless. Some have venom that will drop you in minutes. Again, you cannot always tell which is which until it is too late. Vexthor's sensors pinged. Something was moving through the underbrush about 50 meters away. He focused his attention on it. A large mammal, four-legged, moving slowly through the trees. Deer, Kate said, following his gaze. Harmless unless you get between a mother and her fawn. Then she will kick you hard enough to break bones. The deer emerged from behind a tree. It was a buck, with antlers that spread like reaching fingers. It looked at them for a long moment, then bounded away with surprising speed. See how it moved? Kate asked. That was not running in fear. That was, I see you, I am leaving now, do not follow. Everything here has learned to watch for threats. They know humans. They know we are dangerous. They continued deeper into the forest. Vexthor's sensors were going crazy. Heat signatures everywhere. Small mammals in the trees, birds in the canopy, insects in the undergrowth. The sheer density of life was overwhelming. On most worlds he hunted, prey was scarce. Here, life crowded on top of itself, competing for every scrap of space and food. Kate stopped suddenly. Vexthor nearly ran into her. She held up a hand for silence, then pointed to the ground. There, pressed into the soft earth, was a track. A paw print bigger than Vexthor's largest hand, with claw marks extending beyond the toe pads. Bear, Kate said quietly. Fresh, maybe an hour old. This is his territory. Vexthor felt a surge of excitement. The hunt was beginning. He activated his tracker, taking detailed scans of the print. His system would now be able to identify this specific bear from any other sign it left. The game was on. But as he stood up, something else caught his attention. More prints, smaller, canine in shape. A lot of them, wolves, Kate said. There is a pack that ranges through this area. They probably know about the bear. They know about us now, too. They are not my concern, Vexthor said. I am hunting the bear. Kate just nodded. Remember, everything here is connected. The wolves watch the bear. The bear watches the wolves. The ravens watch everything, and remember, you are not entering an empty arena. You are entering an ecosystem. Vexthor dismissed her words as human overcaution. He had his praise trail. That was all that mattered. They followed the tracks for hours. The bear's path wound through the forest, stopping at various points to mark territory or forage. Vexthor noted each sign with professional interest. The bear was large, probably male, and confident in its domain. It had not bothered to hide its passage. As they tracked, Vexthor began to notice other things. Birds would call out as they approached, warning others of their presence. Squirrels chattered from high branches, scolding them. Even the insects seemed to react, clouds of gnats shifting away before they arrived. "The forest knows we are here," Kate said. "Everything is talking to everything else. Prey animals warn each other. Predators listen to the warnings and know where to hunt. It is all information flowing constantly." By midday, they reached a river. The bear's tracks led down to the water's edge. There were signs of fishing, scales and bones scattered on the rocks. "Salmon run," Kate explained. "Bears come here to feed. Easy food, lots of protein. He will come back here." Vexthor wanted to set up an ambush, but Kate shook her head. "You said you wanted to hunt, not wait at a watering hole. If you want to track and stalk, we keep moving." They crossed the river at a shallow point. The water was cold, snow melt from the mountains. Vexthor's suit compensated for the temperature, but he could feel the current trying to push him off his feet. Kate crossed with practiced ease, using a walking stick for balance. On the other side, they found something that made Vexthor pause. A tree, its bark torn and shredded. Deep gouges marked where something had dragged claws down the trunk. The marks were high up, far above what Vexthor could reach even with his full height. "The bear did this," Kate said, marking territory, showing strength. "See how high the marks go? That tells other bears how big he is. It is a warning and a challenge." Vexthor studied the marks with new respect. The creature he was hunting was not just dangerous. It was confident, established, and very large. As afternoon turned to evening, they made camp. Kate showed Vexthor how to hang their supplies from a tree branch, high enough that the bear could not reach them. "We do not want to attract him to our camp," she explained. "Not while we are sleeping." "I thought we were hunting him," Vexthor said. "We are, but not on his terms. We choose when and where we engage. Otherwise, we are not hunting. We are just waiting to be attacked." That night, as Vexthor tried to rest, the forest came alive with sounds. Owls hooted. Coyotes yipped and howled. Something large moved through the underbrush nearby, snuffling and grunting. Vexthor's hand went to his weapon, but Kate did not even stir from her sleeping bag. In the morning, they found tracks around their camp. The bear had been there close enough to touch their tent. It had investigated them while they slept. Vexthor realized with a cold feeling that the bear knew they were hunting it, and it had come to look at them. The second day of tracking was harder. The bear's trail led uphill, through rocky terrain where tracks were difficult to read. Vexthor had to rely more on other signs: broken branches, disturbed ground, scat that was still fresh. Around noon, they heard a sound that made them both freeze. A rattling noise like dried seeds in a pod being shaken. Vexthor's sensors pointed to a rock near his foot. Coiled there, nearly invisible against the stone, was a snake. Its triangular head was raised, its body tensed to strike. "Do not move," Kate whispered. "Rattlesnake. Very venomous." Vexthor's instinct was to kill it. His hand moved toward his weapon, but Kate's voice stopped him. "If you kill it, every predator in 5 miles will hear the weapon discharge. The bear will know exactly where you are. Back away slowly." Vexthor backed away. The snake watched him with black eyes, its rattle still buzzing a warning. Once he was far enough away, it uncoiled and slithered into a crack between rocks. "Everything here has defenses," Kate said. "Claws, teeth, venom, armor, even the plants. See those nettles? Touch them and they inject compounds that cause pain for days. This whole forest is designed to hurt anything that does not belong." Vexthor was beginning to understand something. On the other worlds he had hunted, danger came from the prey. Here, danger was everywhere. The entire environment was hostile. That afternoon, they found a clearing. In the center was a partially eaten deer carcass. The bear had made a kill and cached it here, covering part of it with leaves and dirt. "He will come back," Kate said. "Probably tonight or tomorrow. This is fresh food. He will not waste it." Vexthor wanted to wait in ambush, but as they approached the carcass, Kate grabbed his arm. "Stop, look up." In the trees around the clearing, birds were gathering. Big black birds with heavy beaks, ravens, Kate said. "They are watching. If we disturb the carcass, they will—" The third morning arrived with rain. Not the gentle rain that Vexthor had experienced on other worlds, but a hard, soaking downpour that turned the forest floor into mud and filled the air with the smell of wet earth and pine. Water streamed down from the canopy, finding every gap in his armor, making his gear heavier. Kate seemed unbothered by the rain. She had pulled up her hood and moved through the forest like she belonged there. Vexthor followed, his sensors struggling to read heat signatures through the water-cooled air. The bear's trail was harder to follow now. Rain had washed away many of the signs, but Kate found them anyway, pointing out scratches on bark, disturbed vegetation, places where the undergrowth was pressed down. "He came through here after the rain started," she said. "See how the water has not filled these prints completely? Maybe 2 hours ahead of us." They climbed higher into the mountains. The trees changed, becoming smaller and more twisted. The air grew thinner, though Vexthor barely noticed the difference. His breathing had adjusted to Earth's rich atmosphere over the past days. Around midday, the rain stopped. The forest dripped and steamed in the sudden sunlight. Vexthor's sensors came back to full function, and that was when he realized something that made his blood run cold. There were tracks following them, not ahead behind. The bear had circled around and was now tracking them. Kate saw his expression change as he studied his scanner. "You just figured it out," she said. "It was not a question. The bear is behind us. It has been for at least an hour. Longer than that, since dawn probably. It picked up our trail and decided to follow instead of run. Vexthor's training told him to find high ground, create a defensive position, but his pride told him something else. He was the hunter. He would not be made into prey. We set a trap, he decided. I will hide. You will continue walking. When it follows you, I will attack from behind." Kate looked at him for a long moment. "That is your choice to make. But understand something. That bear knows there are two of us. If it follows me and does not see you, it will know exactly what you are doing. It is an animal," Vexthor insisted. "It cannot think like that. Then try your trap."
I will walk ahead.
"You hide and wait." Vexthor found a position off the trail behind a fallen log covered in moss. His camouflage system activated, bending light around him. He had used this technique on dozens of hunts. To any normal vision, he would be invisible. Kate continued down the trail, moving at a steady pace. Vexthor waited, every sense focused on the path behind him. His weapons were ready. The moment the bear appeared, he would strike. Minutes passed. Then 10 minutes. Then 20. Nothing moved on the trail. Vexthor's sensors showed no large heat signatures approaching. Had the bear stopped following? Had it gone another way? Then his sensors pinged, but not from the trail. From above and to the left, high ground. He swiveled to look, and his hearts nearly stopped. The bear was there, 50 meters away, standing on a rocky outcrop. It was massive, far larger than he had imagined from the tracks. Brown fur covered a body that must have weighed over 300 kilos. Its head was huge, with small eyes that were looking directly at Vexthor's hiding spot. The bear had not followed Kate down the trail. It had climbed higher, getting above them, watching. And somehow, despite the camouflage, despite the technology, it knew where Vexthor was hiding. They stared at each other for a frozen moment. Then the bear turned and walked away, disappearing into the rocks. Vexthor emerged from hiding on shaking legs. Kate came back up the trail, not looking surprised at all. "It saw me," Vexthor said, "through my camouflage." "How? Smell, maybe." "Air movement. Bears have amazing noses. Or maybe it just knows the forest well enough to know where prey hides. This is its home. It has lived here its whole life. Every rock, every tree, every hiding spot. It knows them all. It could have attacked me. Yes. But it chose not to. That should tell you something." "What?" Kate started walking again, heading up toward the rocks where the bear had stood. "It is not afraid of you. It is studying you, trying to understand what you are. Once it figures that out, it will decide whether you are a threat worth fighting or just something to avoid." They found the bear's trail again on the higher ground. But now Vexthor noticed something he had missed before. The trail did not just go in one direction. It looped, doubled back, crossed over itself. The bear was not running away. It was moving through its territory with purpose, and somehow that purpose now included watching the strange creatures that had entered its domain. That afternoon, they encountered the hornets. Vexthor, pushing through thick brush, brushed against a gray paper nest hanging from a branch. The response was immediate and violent. Hundreds of insects poured out, their buzzing filling the air like the sound of a weapon powering up. Kate ran. Vexthor followed, his armor protecting him from the stings but not from the sheer mass of attackers. They ran for 5 minutes before the hornets gave up the chase. You disturbed their nest, Kate said, breathing hard. They defend their home. They do not care how big you are or what weapons you have. You threaten them, they attack. Simple as that. Vexthor's armor had protected him, but he noticed something alarming. The hornet's attack had been loud, aggressive, and impossible to miss. Every creature in the forest would have heard it, including the bear. It knows we are here now, he said. It always knew. But now it knows you make mistakes, that you are not familiar with this environment. That makes you less dangerous in its eyes. The day grew later. They found a stream and followed it upward toward the mountains. The bear's tracks led this way, and Kate explained that bears often used water routes for travel. Easier walking, access to fish, and the sound of the stream-covered noise. As evening approached, they heard something that made them both stop. A sound like thunder, but rhythmic. Drumming, it came from ahead, from somewhere up the valley. What is that? Vexthor asked. Kate listened carefully. I am not sure. Could be a woodpecker. Some of them are very large. Or it could be the bear, marking territory against a hollow tree. The sound carries for miles. They moved toward the sound cautiously. The forest here was old, with trees that had stood for hundreds of years. Shadows grew long between the massive trunks. The drumming sound continued, steady and loud, then they saw it. Not the bear, but something else. A fallen tree, ancient and huge, and standing next to it was a shape. A wolf, then another. Then 3 more. The pack had gathered here, and they were watching Vexthor and Kate approach. The wolves did not attack. They did not run. They simply stood there, yellow eyes tracking every movement. The alpha, a large gray male with a scarred muzzle, took 1 step forward. Not aggressive, just making a statement. This was their territory too. Back away slowly, Kate said quietly. Do not look them in the eyes. We are leaving. They withdrew carefully. The wolves watched but did not follow. As Vexthor and Kate moved back down the trail, he heard the wolves begin to howl. One started, then others joined, their voices rising and falling in a pattern that sent chills down his spine. They are telling the forest we are here, Kate said. Every predator within miles now knows our location, including the bear, especially the bear. They made camp that night in a small clearing. Vexthor was exhausted in a way he had never experienced on other hunts. It was not just physical, it was mental, the constant awareness that everything around him was watching, judging, reacting. Kate built a small fire, using dry wood that produced almost no smoke. She cooked a simple meal and offered some to Vexthor, who declined. His suit could provide all the nutrition he needed. You are learning, Kate said as she ate. I can see it. You are starting to understand. Understand what? That hunting here is different. On other worlds you found prey and killed it. Simple, clean. But here, nothing is simple. Every action has consequences. Disturb the hornets and you tell everything where you are. Try to ambush the bear, and it sees through your technique. Encounter wolves, and they spread the word. I have hunted dangerous prey before, Vexthor said, frustration bleeding into his voice. Dangerous prey, yes. But did any of them think? Did any of them plan? Did any of them coordinate with other species to survive? Kate poked at the fire with a stick. Earth is not dangerous because we have big predators. Lots of worlds have those. Earth is dangerous because everything here had to learn to think or die. The prey got smarter, so the predators got smarter, so the prey got smarter still. On and on for millions of years, she looked up at him. Your bear is not just strong. It is smart. It has lived 5, maybe 10 years in these mountains. It has survived encounters with other bears, with wolf packs, with mountain lions. It has learned from every encounter. And now it is learning about you. That night, Vexthor did not sleep. He sat watch, scanning the darkness. His sensors showed heat signatures moving through the forest. Deer, smaller mammals, birds settling for the night. But no bear. Where was it? What was it doing? Around midnight, he heard something. Not a sound exactly, but the absence of sound. The normal forest noises had stopped. The insects, the frogs, everything had gone quiet. Something large was moving nearby, moving so carefully that even the forest did not react. Vexthor activated his weapons, ready for anything. His sensors swept them. Vexthor stood frozen in the tangled underbrush, every sense straining to detect the bear. His scanner showed multiple heat signatures, but with the dense vegetation and uneven ground, he could not tell which one was his target. The forest pressed in around him, suddenly feeling less like a hunting ground and more like a trap. A sound behind him, He spun, weapon raised. Nothing there. Just branches moving in the wind. Or maybe not the wind. Maybe something large moving through the brush. Kate appeared at his side, moving quietly through the undergrowth. Her face was serious. "We need to leave this area. Now." "I am not running from prey," Vexthor said, though his voice lacked conviction. "This is not running. This is tactical retreat. You let the bear choose the battlefield, and it chose terrain where you have no advantage. That was a mistake. We leave, regroup, and approach this differently." Before Vexthor could argue, a sound erupted from the forest that made his blood freeze. A roar, deep and powerful, that seemed to vibrate through the very ground. It came from somewhere to their left, maybe 30 meters away, close, too close. Then came a crashing sound. Something heavy moving fast through the brush. Coming toward them, Kate grabbed Vexthor's arm. "Run, not away from it, perpendicular. Make it change direction, go." They ran, pushing through the undergrowth. Branches tore at Vexthor's armor. His feet caught on hidden roots. Behind them, the crashing continued, keeping pace. "It is hurting us," Vexthor realized. "I know," Kate gasped. "There is a clearing ahead. We need to reach it." "Open ground." They burst out of the thick brush into a small meadow. Kate immediately turned to face the forest, pulling Vexthor around with her. They stood side by side, watching the tree line. The crashing stopped. Silence fell. Nothing emerged from the forest. "Why did it stop?" Vexthor asked, his breathing heavy. "Because it made its point. It could have caught us in there if it wanted to. But that was not the goal. It wanted to show us that this is its territory, that it knows every inch of it, and that we are out of our depth." Vexthor's pride stung. He was a Krillathi hunter, trained from youth in the art of stalking and killing dangerous prey. Yet this creature, this simple beast, had just outmaneuvered him completely. "I need to wound it," he said. "Track its blood, find it when it is weakened." Kate shook her head. "You wound a grizzly bear, you make it angry and desperate. Desperate bears are the most dangerous. They will fight instead of flee. Is that what you want?" "I want to complete this hunt. Then we need to change tactics. Sit down, rest, think." They made camp in the meadow, where visibility was good in all directions. Vexthor's armor had taken damage from the run through the brush. Small tears and scratches marred its surface. He spent time repairing what he could while Kate gathered firewood. As the sun began to set, Kate cooked her evening meal. The smell of food made Vexthor's stomach rumble despite himself. He had been eating nutritional paste from his suit for days. It was efficient but unsatisfying. "Tell me about Krillathi hunting," Kate said as she ate. "How do you train? What do you learn?" Vexthor was surprised by the question, but talking felt better than sitting in frustrated silence. "We begin training as juveniles. We learn to read tracks, to move silently, to understand animal behavior. We study the prey animals of our world first. Then as we master those, we travel to other worlds. Each successful hunt adds to our reputation, and the goal is to kill the prey? Of course. That is what hunting is. Predator kills prey. That is the natural order." Kate poked at her fire. "On Earth, we learned a different lesson. Yes, we hunted to eat. Early humans had to kill prey to survive. But we also learned that killing is only one part of hunting. The real skill is understanding the prey so well that you know what it will do before it does it. Reading its behavior, its patterns, its decisions." She looked up at him. "Your bear is teaching you something important. It is not just trying to escape. It is responding to you, adapting its behavior based on what you do. Every action you take, it learns from. When you tried to ambush it, it went around. When you followed it into thick brush, it used the terrain against you. It is hunting you back, not to kill, but to understand." "Animals do not think like that," Vexthor protested. But even as he said it, he knew it was not true. Not here, not on Earth. Earth animals do. They have to, because humans have been hunting them for hundreds of thousands of years. The ones that did not learn, that did not adapt, they went extinct. The ones that survived learned to think, to plan, to recognize threats and respond intelligently. Kate stood up and walked to the edge of the clearing. She pointed up at the darkening sky. "See those birds, ravens? They have been following us since yesterday. They are waiting to see if we make a kill, because if we do, they will get to scavenge the remains. But they are also watching the bear, and they will warn each other if it gets too close to their nests. Everything here is connected. Everything communicates." Vexthor joined her, looking up at the birds circling overhead. "On my world, we are the apex predators. Nothing challenges us. Earth had apex predators too. Big cats, bears, wolves. But then humans came along. We were not the strongest or fastest, but we could think further ahead than any animal. We could plan. We could work together. We could create tools. Slowly, over thousands of years, we became the apex predators not by being the most dangerous, but by being the most persistent. And now? Vexthor asked. Now we understand something important. Being at the top does not mean destroying everything below you. It means maintaining balance. We hunt bears when populations get too large, but we also protect them when they are threatened. We manage the forest to keep it healthy. We understand that our survival is linked to the survival of everything else. That night, Vexthor could not sleep again. His mind kept replaying the hunt, looking for where he had gone wrong. He had followed his training perfectly. He had tracked the prey, identified its habits, attempted to corner it, but nothing had worked the way it should have. Around midnight, Kate spoke from her sleeping bag. You are thinking too much like a hunter from other worlds. Here you need to think like a human hunter. What is the difference? Patience, respect, understanding that the prey is not your enemy. It is just another creature trying to survive, same as you. When you view it that way, you start to see the patterns more clearly. I do not have time for patience. The hunt ends in 3 more days. Then you will fail, Kate said simply, because that bear will not let itself be killed by someone who does not understand it. The next morning, the 5th day, Kate suggested something different. No tracking today. No stalking. We are going to observe. Observe what? The forest. The ecosystem. Everything that is not the bear. Vexthor wanted to argue, but his previous attempts had led nowhere. He agreed to try Kate's approach. They spent the day watching. Kate showed him things he had been too focused to notice. A family of raccoons washing food in a stream, their tiny hands incredibly dexterous, salmon swimming upstream, fighting against the current with single-minded determination, an eagle hunting, using air currents to soar without effort, then diving with precision to catch a fish. See the eagle? Kate said. It does not chase every fish. It watches, waits for the right moment, the right target. Then it commits fully. One strike, efficient and clean. They watched squirrels gathering and hiding food, creating dozens of caches they would remember months later. They watched a doe and her fawn, the mother constantly alert, teaching the young one where to step, what to eat, what to avoid. Every creature here is teaching the next generation, Kate explained. Knowledge passes down. The bear you are hunting learned from its mother how to fish, where to den, what humans smell like, and how dangerous they are. It is not acting on pure instinct. It is acting on learned experience. As the day wore on, Vexthor began to see the forest differently, not as a hunting ground, but as a community of living things, all interconnected, all affecting each other. The death of one thing fed another. The growth of plants provided shelter. Water connected everything. That evening, they climbed to a rocky outcrop overlooking a valley. The view was stunning. Mountains stretched to the horizon, covered in green forest. A river wound through the valley floor, catching the last light of the sun. This is what you are hunting in, Kate said. Not just a bear, an entire world. Every part of it is alive, aware, and reacting to your presence. To succeed here, you cannot just be a better killer. You have to be smarter, more patient, more aware than everything around you. How do humans do it? Vexthor asked. How do you survive in a world like this? We learned. Over millions of years, we learned. Our ancestors were not the strongest primates. They came down from the trees and found a world full of things that wanted to eat them. Lions, leopards, hyenas, snakes, crocodiles. Everything was a threat. So they learned to make tools, to work together, to communicate, to plan ahead. Kate picked up a rock and turned it over in her hands. This could be a tool, a weapon, a way to crack open food. Early humans saw potential in everything. They did not just react to threats, they anticipated them. They did not just defend against predators, they studied them and learned their weaknesses. And they won. No, Kate corrected. They survived. There is a difference. Winning. The 6th day began with fog. It rolled through the valleys like a living thing, turning the forest into a world of gray shapes and muffled sounds. Visibility dropped to maybe 20 meters. Vexthor's sensors struggled with the moisture in the air. Kate was already awake, preparing her pack. Last full day, she said. Tomorrow at sunset, the hunt ends. Have you decided what you want to do? Vexthor had been thinking about that question all night. His pride demanded he kill the bear, complete the hunt, prove his skill. But something had changed in him over the past days. He no longer saw the bear as simply prey to be taken. He saw it as Kate had shown him to see it, as part of a larger system, a creature with its own intelligence and right to exist. "I want to see it again," he said finally, face to face, not through sensors or from a distance. "I want to understand what it understands." Kate nodded as if she had expected this answer. "Then we go to its den. That is where it will be on a morning like this. Safe, dry, resting. How do you know where its den is?" "I have been tracking it just as you have. But I was looking for different signs. Not just where it goes, but where it returns to. Its safe place." They hiked through the fog, Kate leading the way with confidence that surprised Vexthor. She moved through the forest like she could see through the mist, like she had walked these paths 1,000 times before. In truth, she had simply learned to read the land, to notice the subtle signs that showed the way. After 2 hours of climbing, they reached a rocky hillside. Kate stopped and pointed. There, partially hidden by an overhang, was the entrance to a cave. Not large, but big enough for a bear. "It is in there," she said quietly, resting. "We can approach, but understand that we are coming to its home. This is the most dangerous thing we have done. If it feels truly threatened, it will fight." "I understand," Vexthor said, and he did, in a way he had not understood at the beginning of this hunt. They approached slowly, making noise deliberately so the bear would hear them coming. Kate called out softly, a greeting in a language that was not quite words but conveyed meaning. "We are here. We mean no harm. We respect this space." A sound came from the cave. Movement. Then, blocking the entrance with its massive body, the bear appeared. In the gray light of the fog, it looked even larger than before. Its brown fur was thick, rippling over muscles that could tear a tree apart. Its eyes were dark, intelligent, studying the two figures standing before its home. The bear made a huffing sound, not quite a warning growl, but definitely not welcoming. Vexthor felt his hand move toward his weapon, an instinctive response. But Kate touched his arm gently and he stopped. This was not a moment for weapons. "Talk to it," Kate said softly. "It cannot understand me. Maybe not your words, but it can understand your intent, your tone. Talk." Vexthor felt foolish, but he spoke. His words came out in his own language, clicking and complex. "I came here to hunt you, to prove I was the better predator, but I have learned something different. You are not prey, you are a survivor like me. You know your world as I know mine. You have taught me that hunting is more than killing." The bear watched him, its head tilted slightly. Did it understand? Probably not the words. But something in Vexthor's posture, his tone, the lack of aggressive intent, it must have registered. The bear sat back on its haunches, a less defensive position. Kate stepped forward slowly, her hands visible and empty. She spoke in English now, her voice calm and steady. "We respect your territory. We respect your strength. We are leaving now. You can return to your rest." Then she did something that made Vexthor's hearts race with alarm. She bowed. A small gesture, but clear in its meaning. Respect. Acknowledgement of the bear's dominance in this place. After a moment, Vexthor bowed as well. It went against every hunting instinct he had, showing submission to prey. But this was not prey. This was something else, something equal. The bear huffed again, then turned and walked back into its den. The encounter was over. It had ended without violence, without death, with nothing more than mutual acknowledgement. They walked away from the den site in silence. The fog was beginning to lift, sunlight breaking through in scattered rays. The forest was waking up, birds calling, small animals rustling in the undergrowth. Finally, Vexthor spoke. "I could have killed it just then. It was close enough. I had the advantage. Would it have been hunting or would it have been murder?" The question struck Vexthor hard. He thought about it for a long time before answering. It would have been murder. The bear had done nothing to deserve death. It was simply existing in its own territory, living its life. "That is the difference," Kate said. "Humans learned that difference thousands of years ago. We learned that killing for food is survival. Killing for protection is necessity, but killing just to prove you can is something else entirely. It is waste. It is taking life without purpose." They made camp in a clearing far from the bear's den. The sun was high now, burning off the last of the fog. Vexthor sat on a rock and tried to process everything he had learned. "I am going to fail this hunt," he said. Tomorrow the time ends and I will not have killed the bear. I will have to admit defeat in front of everyone at Crosspoint 7. Kate sat across from him, her expression thoughtful. Is that what you think this was about? Winning or losing? That was the challenge. That was what we agreed. The challenge was to see if you could hunt on Earth you have hunted. You tracked a grizzly bear across difficult terrain. You learned its patterns. You faced it multiple times. The question was never if you could kill it. The question was if you understood what hunting means on a death world where the prey hunts back. And do I understand? Kate smiled. You bowed to the bear. A Krillathi apex predator showed respect to prey. Yes, I think you understand. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. As they sat by their camp, eating and resting, animals began to appear. A deer walked into the clearing, saw them but did not run. It grazed calmly, keeping one eye on them but not showing fear. Ravens landed in nearby trees, calling to each other but not their usual alarm calls. Even a fox trotted past, pausing to look at them with curious eyes before continuing on its way. Why are they not afraid? Vexthor asked. Because you have changed. They can sense it. You're not hunting anymore. You are just existing in their space like they exist in yours. Animals are good at reading intent. They know when something is dangerous and when it is just passing through. As evening approached on this 6th day, Vexthor made a decision. I want to see the bear one more time. Not at its den, but in the forest living its life. Will you help me? That is why we are here, Kate said. They moved through the forest as the sun set, not tracking with intent to kill, but following with curiosity and respect. Kate led them to the river where they had seen the bear fishing before. They found a position upwind and uphill, where they could watch without disturbing. The bear arrived as the last light faded. It moved to the water with confidence, wading in to begin fishing. Its technique was practiced, efficient. Every few minutes it caught a salmon. Sometimes it ate the whole fish, sometimes just the best parts, leaving the rest for scavengers. But Vexthor noticed something else. Another bear appeared on the opposite bank. A female smaller than the male with 2 cubs following her. The male bear saw them. The female saw him. For a moment, tension filled the air. Then the male moved further downriver, giving the female and her cubs the better fishing spot. It was not fear. It was something else. Recognition of her needs, of the fact that she was feeding young. A kind of understanding between them. The female fished while her cubs played at the water's edge, learning by watching. The male continued his own fishing in his new spot. 2 predators sharing a resource, understanding boundaries without conflict. That, Kate whispered, is what Earth teaches. Coexistence, even between competitors. They watched until full darkness fell and the bears moved on. Then they returned to camp for their final night in the forest. Vexthor could not sleep. Tomorrow they would return to Crosspoint 7. He would have to face the crowd, admit that he had not killed the bear. His reputation would take a blow. Some would say he had failed, but had he failed? He had come to hunt a deathworld predator. He had learned that deathworld predators were not just strong or dangerous. They were smart, adaptive, aware. They hunted, but they also knew when not to hunt. They competed, but they also coexisted. They killed, but they also understood the value of life. Kate spoke from her sleeping bag. What will you tell them? When we get back? The truth, Vexthor said. That I came to hunt, but I learned something more important than killing. I learned why humans are different. Why deathworlders from Earth are not just survivors, but something new in the galaxy. And what makes us different. You carry your deathworld with you. Not just the danger, but the lessons. The respect for life. The understanding that survival is not about being the strongest, but about being smart enough to know when to fight and when to coexist. You are predators who learn to control your predator nature. That is more dangerous than any creature I have ever hunted. Kate was quiet for a moment. That is probably the best compliment a human has ever received from an alien hunter. The 7th day arrived. Their time was up. They packed their gear and,